Okay, untap, upkeep, drop.
This is Interplanar Public Radio. IPPR.
We're getting good room tone now.
Well, I think we have to be quiet to do that.
Fairy door? This is already a wild set.
This is a recording from the world-famous Dice Dojo in Chicago, a place where dreams are crushed. The March of the Machines pre-release, where hundreds of excited players hoping to open a Ragavan will soon be going home empty-handed.
I did get first mate Ragavan token. Not as fun.
But for now, the air is filled with excited chatter.
3 Ragavans in this one.
Oh, I can't wait. Give me 69 Ragavans.
For All Cards Considered, I'm Jesse Batend. The pre-release show. Hello, battle fans far and wide. This is All Cards Considered. I'm Jesse Batend.
And I'm Dillon Cassidy.
And we are here to give you our first impressions of the brand new set, March of the Machines. Mm-hmm. Are you a battle fan, Dillon?
I am still warming up to them, I think. I am still warming up to them. Well, I did not really get to... I played... my pre-release was cut a little bit short. I went 1-1, and then I had to take a leave for my last game. And in the few games I did play, I was excited to play my battles, which I had... The only one I ended up ever playing was Faithless Looting, the battle. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get to resolve it, so I spent a lot of time defending battles. And in that way, I don't like them right now. They're probably okay.
I think they're really fun, to be honest. My first impression is I'm all in on battles. I think I had a couple in every deck that I played. I flipped quite a few. Mm-hmm. And, just from the outset, like when you were opening that first pack of cards at pre-release, the first thing that jumped out, like, they're really beautiful. Like, yeah, I love how they look. Uh-huh. And the artwork is really cool. The sideways thing is kind of nice. It presents a real big problem, though, in that, like, there's no way to read them without giving away that you have one in your hand. Yeah. Has that happened to you yet?
Well, okay, so that kind of begs a big question, which I think we're going to see a lot of in the draft format for this live. There are so many dual-face cards that it's going to be kind of obvious what everyone's drafting.
I see. You're doing blue-black.
Yeah, which I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but, I mean, maybe it means that people are going to have more consistent deck colors if you see the guy next to you is like already slammed down a black battle on turn 1.
That's an interesting question because it's like, sure, you should follow signals, and like I do, but if I open Urabrask or something and I see someone else has like a red double-faced card, I don't know if I'm like gonna pass on it.
Well, I'm not gonna pass a Praetor if
everybody does, maybe. But yeah, I think that they present a lot of interesting choices and add a lot of depth to the games in the ones that I've played so far. In general, I had a wild pre-release. I actually managed to do 3 of them. Okay.
So you got one in for me.
One for each day. Yeah, I got one in for you. Dude, I went 8-1.
Very nice. Okay, so you had a good time.
So I don't know. I was just kind of on a roll. I think I got lucky. I was on the good side of like a ton of bombs. Yeah. There are an incredible amount of rares in general. Yeah. Just like you can get up to 3 rares in some packs. Mm-hmm. And I know that you opened a bunch yourself.
My pool had 13 rares in it between my 6 packs, which is just like a lot. Well, rares and mythics. So I had a lot of good cards to choose from, which kind of put me in a weird place because I was pulled in a lot of different directions by my pool. Which I guess could have happened with a smaller pool of rares also, but just harder to make decisions when there's more shiny cards.
Well, sure. Mm-hmm. It does come down to a lot of that has to do with the bonus sheet. I'm not sure how I feel about that in general.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some cool cards. Some of them are so recent, like Raph from Dominaria United just like 3 sets ago.
There's some Kaldheim list cards, and then all of the Ikoria companions are in there.
Yeah, right there. I thought that was kind of a strange
I feel like it was a way to
inclusion.
just kind of cut the cost on some of these cards that are like commander staples at this point.
Mostly just reprints.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's possible. The fact that they're playable, because, they have the whole separate sheet that's like not playable.
Yeah.
But they put the companions into the draft and sealed format. Did you play against any companions or
Did not see a
put one in
single
your deck?
companion.
No? Yeah. 3 people like right around me in our very first pre-release all opened companions.
You can only have one.
He only has 2 companions.
Oh Lord! You can only have one companion.
Yeah, you can't have more.
Is that Luris?
Yeah, it's Luris and Greer.
He did his name that the other one.
Someone was going to do Luris, and someone else had Lutri, and someone had Gigantha. That was me.
Gigantha.
I had Gigantha.
Oh, okay. So that's how you got your 5
So that's how I
battle.
played my 5-color battle. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I kind of lived the dream with that first deck.
Okay.
The one thing I wanted to kind of mention from my pre-release experience is that Game 2 ended up being only one game. It was the entire 50 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It was me and this other guy who's a LGS regular, really strong player, this guy Maynard. And he was playing black-white Phyrexians, and I had my like silly deck, which was mostly blue-green, focused on the counter thing with a little bit of incubate and a little bit of backup. And the one thing is I was like, look, if I end up in like a crazy board stall, because I think that might be something that happens in this set, I'm going to put Gigantha in, and I'm going to put the 5-color battle in. That seems like a good way to break up a board stall.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened. It was the thing that ended up putting me over, because the first side of it cascades. You know, you get 2 permanents. One of them you get to cast right away. The other one goes into your hand. And then I was able to flip it like on the next turn, because it's 7 power, but at this point we have a bunch of resources, and I'm like, well, that's the thing to dedicate resources to. And then it just does everything.
Yeah.
Put some counters, draw some cards, kill a permanent, like flick.
Wow.
It's crazy. So that was one of the most fun games. I think we both just kind of like looked at each other and went like, holy
Great game.
You put me through my paces.
That's so funny. Because you mentioned what that card does. I unpacked it myself and then looked at that it was 5 cost and didn't read what it did.
You pretty much just
Completely
shouldn't
ignored
play it.
Yeah.
You pretty much shouldn't play it. There's a whole bunch of cards in the set, like the Praetors, that are kind of like, if you flip them, win the game. And in general, I would say the transforming cards are really, really powerful. Like, all of them are good. Granted, you can.
Yeah.
There's some things to know. Like,
There's like definitely a time of investment, and it's like a pretty telegraphed plan that you're
Exactly.
executing. Like you play a 2-cost creature on turn 2 that has a transform for 3. And you know what your opponent's probably are like. If your opponent leaves mana open, don't transform right
yeah,
then. You know?
that's exactly the advice. Is just like, there are places where if your opponent has mana open, you might just want to slow play things and wait and see what happens. Now, of course, they transform at sorcery speed, so you can't like wait till your opponent does their thing and then transform on end step.
Yeah.
What you can do
With
is
incubate.
animate an incubate token on end step.
Sure
And that's how
can.
people are playing them. It's been really cool. Like, pass, leave my mana open. I can cast an instant if I want to. I can turn on my little artifact guy if I want to.
I had a pretty good answer to. I was playing somebody that had Grim Grin.
Oh, sure.
He's
That's the zombie.
Demir. He doesn't untap on your upkeep. Whenever he attacks the defending player, you destroy one of their creatures.
Yeah, but you have to like sack a creature to untap him.
Yeah, so I had a 7-power incubate token that I held up because I could then animate it after the attacks were declared, so I'd have a blocker still, which was nice, but I still ended up losing that one.
Nah,
Yeah, I was too far
Grimgrin
behind.
is a very hard card to beat when they
Yeah.
put you in the hole there, but exciting to open.
Yes.
You open it and you go like, wow, I'm going to dedicate
Oh, yes.
my deck. I'm going to build my deck around this, and as long as I can get to this card, I'm going to have a good time. Pelukra Gross, have you seen that card? Is insane.
Yeah, remind us of what he does again.
The front side is 3 green,
Okay.
which is obviously hard to cast, but
Right.
if you can do it, he's a 4/5 with reach for 3.
Yep, that's
And
good.
then you transform him. He's got reach and lifelink, and whenever a Hydra you control dies, create a 3/3 green and white Phyrexian Hydra creature token with reach and one with lifelink. So he basically is
Worm-
Worm Coil Engine
Yeah.
when he dies.
Yep.
And this opening deck that I had Pelucranos and Sunfall, the board wipe that exiles everything, and then you get to incubate equal to the number of things that died. And I literally found myself in the position where I had Pelucranos flipped onto his worm coil side, and I was like, I don't want to wipe the board yet.
Yeah.
Even though I can win the game a little bit quicker if I just go ahead and do the board wipe right now, because there's all this value. So I'm like, I'll just take a couple turns, attack with Pelucranos, let the tokens trade off for some life.
Wow.
Then I'll wipe the board. Like, I was just sitting in the driver's seat for those games.
Yeah, sounds like it.
In a way that was like probably kind of shitty to play against, which, does raise a point. This has been a balmy and wild couple first days with the format, and I think some people aren't necessarily enjoying that. Have you found yourself like in games that you didn't feel like you were in?
Yeah, I had an Imperiosaur, the like convoke dinosaur for 7 that for each creature you convoke with, he gets +2 counters. He's got trample and ward, and I think he's probably one of the stronger single cards in the set. And so I was like, I'm going to build around him, and I had a pretty solid red pile, but I just didn't get any of the right cards in the right order, so I had all lands. Basic Magic stuff. I flooded, or I droughted, or cards didn't work out. I do think that it is swingy, and that, we talked a little bit about battles and how, like, you have to choose between attacking your opponent's life and attacking the battle. The flip side of that is when you do kill the battle, you almost always get a creature that has power equal to whatever the battle's hit points were. So in a way,
that's interesting. I hadn't noticed that.
It's not like quite parity, but it's pretty close to the number of counters is usually close to or less than the toughness of whatever you get.
Yeah, in general, where I started going in was, I think battles are going to be good. Yeah. I think that attacking them and flipping them is going to be worth your effort. Yeah. If you can do it in a turn or less. Forget about, it's not giving your opponent life. That's the way that people thought about it as a shorthand, and I understand why they're saying that. Yeah. But it's not actually giving your opponent life, because there's many turns in Magic where you can't attack. True. And that's not necessarily like adding to their life total. And if you don't flip the battle, it's not like you have to flip it to kill them, right? It's just this like bonus objective that if you're able to do it, it's a side quest. Exactly. It offers an incredible amount of value. Yeah. Like, a creature that I can cast without paying mana is worth taking a turn off, is what I'll say. And so that's just kind of like where I started. And in general, I think that that's borne out. There are many situations where you can play a battle as your spell for the turn. You're happy, but you can also actually flip it that turn as well. And then it's like getting 2 for 1 immediately in that turn. And this just comes down to like context and where in a match you want to play one. The real advantage to them is just forcing your opponent to play differently than they normally would. And in that case, there are a lot of situations where I'm like thoroughly behind, but I'm not worried about attacking my opponent's life because I'm never going to win a race. But if I can flip that battle, I can stabilize.
This this makes me want to start talking about some of these cards that we are talking about.
Yeah.
Part of the goal for this episode is just talk about some cards that we think are interesting, or maybe watch out for while we're going through the set, monitoring their performance maybe and seeing what their win rate is.
Absolutely. Let's jump into, we both prepared a couple of cards we wanted to talk about that we have either impressed us so far or like Dillon said, are worth watching. What's the first card you wanted to talk about, Dillon?
Okay, well, since this is just so much so brought up here with the idea of like battles kind of change the math of how people are going to block and may change some of those board stalls considerably.
Totally.
I think that while combat tricks are not as good as removal, are going to be better in this set than in previous sets, because there's going to be more attacking, there's going to be more blocking, and more trading. So the card that I want to talk about here, which I maybe have mentioned before, is Bladed Battle Fan, which is 1 and a black for an artifact equipment that has flash. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Equipped creature also gets +1, and you can equip it for 1. So while this card, I don't think on its face is like crazy impressive or anything like that, it is a card that we've had printed in every set pretty much of Magic for all of in perpetuity. That is the classic instant speed black combat trick that gives a creature indestructible or reanimates it or something. But this time it sticks around. And I think that is going to be very valuable. And this isn't going to be like, maybe this is your 23rd card in a lot of decks, but I think that this card is going to do better than those cards have in the past. And it sticks around. Equips for 1. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, the red-black decks have seemed to like it, too, because they can sack it off and they can treat it like a combat trick, attack with it for a few turns, and then sacrifice it. The one that comes to mind is the 2-mana removal spell that gives a creature -2/-2, but -6/-6 if you kick it, which
fatal something, or fatal flourish.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, fatal flourish. If I can piggyback on that point, aerial boost.
Oh, the white convoke? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So much of the time, you can cast it on a creature, jump it up into the air, and cast it for free. Yeah. Because you have 2 creatures, tap those guys, attack with your biggest threat. Mm-hmm. Often it'll be able to flip a battle immediately.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, a trick that you can cast for free is...
It's pretty
even
good.
Even when you're tapped out, that's just really impressive.
Mm-hmm. We love to see that. I think that card is going to be... You're not going to run 10 of it in a deck or anything, but
no.
In any white deck, I feel like you could play one of those pretty safely and not be upset.
You'll gladly play a couple, and then like keep your eye out for Zada. Zada is a red creature that if it is targeted by a spell that targets only it, copy it for each other creature you control that you can target. Okay. So you give the entire team +2/+2 and flying.
Good night. Yeah.
So yeah, solid card.
Uh-huh.
One that I think is basically a bomb. Like, we have to see how it's actually going to play out. And I know you're a little bit skeptical about like transform creatures and like how worthwhile that is.
They're all really good if you can transform them.
Right, if you can manage to do it. So the card that comes to mind is Kenra Spell Spear.
Yeah.
2/2 for 1 and a red with trample and prowess. And it transforms for 3 and Phyrexian blue. So the play pattern, turn 2, you drop the Spell Spear. Turn 3, you flip it. It flips into a 3/3 with trample, ward 2, and prowess, which is, double prowess.
Very good.
And then from that point on, you can just like cantrip your way to victory. It's a 5/5 on turn 4 as you're attacking. The ward makes it super hard to kill. The trample makes it get through. The card's just like kind of unbelievably insane, right?
It's pretty good. It's technically, is it color identity right with the blue Phyrexian? But I think it plays in any red deck.
Yeah, all across the board, the colored pip in their cost is Phyrexian, which means you can pay it with life instead of the color. So you can put any of the transformed creatures into a deck that doesn't play the like off-color cost. You see what I'm saying? Like Kenra Spellspear can go into any red deck, exactly like you're saying. It plays extremely well in a red-white deck that just has a lot of pump spells.
Or battles, or like whatever, any non-creature spell.
Yeah, any non-creature spell, exactly.
Removal.
Honestly, the card's crazy. It's going to end a bunch of games all on its own, and the biggest like problem with it is that it's so good that you're just going to like struggle to get more than 1 or 2 in a draft. I think.
Definitely, yeah. That'll get picked.
What a terrible problem to have for a card.
Let's see. My red card that I was going to talk about is another transform card, actually. Pyretic Prankster. He costs 1 and a red. It's a creature devil, 3 and a black Phyrexian to transform it. Activate only at sorcery speed. 2/1 as its power. So doesn't do a whole lot the turn it comes down. But for 3 mana on the following turn, you can transform it into the Glistening Goremonger, which whenever it dies, each opponent sacrifices an artifact or a creature, which in the Rakdos or Grixis Wedge, whatever, where you're playing a lot of sacrifice effects, I think removal is really good in this set, and when it's tied to your creatures, it's like kind of better. It makes that calculus also a little bit harder when you're deciding like who to attack and block. Overall, I think that this is just like a solid creature with removal baked into it, potentially. Gives you stuff to do with mana on 2 turns in a row, which is also good. So great for your curve. Good card.
Yeah, I like it, and I've played it in a couple of decks. I've also, for whatever reason, found it on the chopping block. I think it's maybe best in red-black.
Yeah.
And it is a cheaper version of another card that has been really good for me. So I suspect that it's better than I'm, like it's better than I have played it. Like, and will probably go up over time through the set. But the Herbology Instructor, I believe it's called. It's 1 and a green for a 1/3, and gains you 3 life when it ETBs, and then you can pay 6, and it's Phyrexian blue or something like that. Transforms into a creature that gives -O/-X equal to its power. So it'll it's a 3/3. So it'll give something -3.
Oh yeah, we love
kill
that.
Something right away. If you can make it bigger, then you kill something bigger. But the Herbology Instructor has been really strong.
Creatures with removal are just what I would say. Absolutely premium. This is a set that's like all about having board presence. Like Toxic kind of did that. Battles are another thing that's like you need to have stuff on the board. And they do give you a lot of chumps in this set, I feel like. There's a lot of cards that are like make tokens, things like that. So there's lots of access to board presence, but it is good. And especially when you get removal on creatures, it's even better.
Absolutely. The other thing that you can do a lot in this set is cast cards for free.
Yeah.
There are a ton of cards that let you pay 0 or not pay the mana cost for cards. So I just kind of wanted to mention it. It's insane. It's disgusting. It's hard to cast. It's a rare, so like obviously it's going to be good, but I just had to mention Atali, Primal Conqueror. 7 mana for a trample 7/7, but the part that really does you in is when it enters the battlefield, both players exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card, and Atali's owner gets to cast both of those cards without paying their mana cost. It has a backside, but it doesn't actually matter because, come on.
Yeah.
But it's 9 and Phyrexian green to spin it into an 11/11 that gives you poison counters equal to the damage. It's a trample indestructible because why not?
Comes a Blightsteel Colossus.
Deals
right?
combat damage to a player. They get poison counters equal to the damage. So like it's just going to finish commander games. It's, look, they did a good job of making cards that make you just like roll your eyes. And what the
They're so
okay,
pushed.
all right, like whatever. Makes you wonder how the next few sets are gonna feel, right? Like after cards like this,
It's gonna be interesting when I open the One Ring.
That's fair. Oh my god, that Lord of the Rings set, yeah, it's gonna feel so like timid in comparison, I think.
Maybe, or we'll find out horsemanship horsemanship's not busted when it's in a world of horsemanship, I think.
Yeah, right. It's just flying.
Yeah.
Good in the larger world of Magic. Yeah.
In the world of Middle Earth.
What's next on your list?
So this is kind of piggybacking off the idea that creatures are good in this set. We have another common from me, which is Preening Champion. It is kind of statted basically how we have a card like this in blue in every set. It's 2 and a blue for a creature bird knight that has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 blue and red elemental creature token. And it's a 2/2 itself, so that's 3 stats for 3 with a flyer and 2 bodies, which seems like an absolutely premium common in my opinion. Does just about everything you want it to be doing in this set, and then some. And it's a knight for the tribal synergies when that incidentally matters.
I'm not gonna lie. When I read that card, I literally like looked around the table and I was like, "What is going on here?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
This
like,
is a common. This is where commons are now.
It's a lot. The value on that card is absurd, and it's made it hard in the first couple drafts that I've done on Arena not to take it, even when I'm not playing blue. Like I just look at it and I go, "Wait, what?"
You could make a deck of just these, I think. Like this card is it's doing everything. The only thing that's going to stop it is like a big trampoline green guy.
Yeah, they've impressed a lot of Magic players, I think, just with some of the pushed commons in the set where you just go like, oh my lord. But it's really good in Convoke, obviously. 2 bodies. It's good if you're trying to sack stuff. Wow, what more could you want? So this is another rare, but it's one that I just wanted to mention because I think it looks...
What do you got for me?
Unbelievably fun.
Yes, what is it?
So yeah, perhaps the card that I'm most excited to play with, haven't had a chance yet, Chrome Host Seed Shark.
Oh, the Sharknado, but it's a creature.
Absolutely. It's like better Sharknado, I think. It's 2 and a blue for a flying Phyrexian Shark 2/4, but whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. So, like, oh my lord.
Yeah.
I've found incubate to be very, very, very solid.
I think it is. Well, yeah, I like incubate as options, and it's. I only ended up with one incubate token in all of the games I played, so I didn't get a lot of experience with it in my set, but I do think it is a strong thing.
My first experience with incubate was I played the white enchantment, incubates 4 and then gives all Phyrexians vigilance.
Okay.
The very next turn I drew the blink spell and I blinked it and I made a second 4 and I was like, oh, well, that's quite pushed. Like 3,
we did it.
Yeah, 3 for a 4/4 on the next turn is just good already, and a vigilant 4/4 is even better. And the fact that you can blink it in white is really strong. And so I was pretty like in when it comes to Chrome Host Siege Shark, it really is like Shark Typhoon, except that it's the full version for 3, and then you just have to pay 2 to turn your sharks on.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to get like a 2/2, a 3/3, a 4/4, and a 5/5 very quickly. They don't have flying, so that part is not as good. But this I think has play in like multiple formats.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good card.
I love it.
My next card, once again, a common, my green common that I wanted to talk about. Kind of boring, but I think it is just going to be a bread and butter staple here, which is Atraxos Fall. It is a 1 and a green for a sorcery that has destroy target artifact, battle, enchantment, or creature with flying. And I bring this up mostly just because we have this card also in almost every single set, but this is the strongest version of this card that we've ever had printed, and that it hits battle, artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. In the last set that we had, Carnivorous Canopy, which was 3 for just some of those effects. So this is a good card.
Yeah, it's indicative of like the general feel of this set, which is it's 2. Normally you pay 3 for that cost.
Mm-hmm.
It hits a battle. It hits an artifact. It hits an enchantment. It hits a creature with flying. It just hits all of them.
Yep.
Every permutation usually has like a couple of those.
Yeah.
This one has all 4. And I've yet to see like what does that mean when all of the cards are better across the board?
Yeah.
Where does everything fall? But that's
Yeah.
part of the fun of like reassessing all of this stuff.
It's the power creep.
Totally.
Uh-huh.
Like we're now in an era where I think some of these pump spells are just actually really good, where I feel like when I started drafting, the conventional wisdom that was passed down to me was like, pump spells are sort of a last resort. They're for very aggro decks.
Yeah.
You can probably do better. Put in that hard removal spell instead. And now I feel like we're just kind of in a place where that depends.
Yeah. I had so I ended up reworking my pre-release deck from a Gruul thing into what ended up being Grixis. So I kind of pivoted pretty hard, and ran with Hirobi, which any creature becomes the target of a spell or ability.
Okay.
You destroy it.
Nice.
And backup can target any creature, not just your own.
So you started killing things with your backup?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Because I had 2 of the Voldaren Thrill Seekers. Easy to just ping, kill something, and then also still have my guy back, and then, yeah, backup 2.
That card is cool, and it's going to be, I think the like Mimi deck is playing Yargle and Multani and flinging it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I also had that in my pool.
Hey!
I should have done that because I had the full thing and
Fling
just done
Yargle?
jumped. Yeah.
I think, okay, for our listeners, a couple of like, we're going to give you guys like achievements that if you
This
can
is magical
achieve them,
Christmas
you have
land,
to let
yeah.
us know. Yeah, definitely flinging and killing someone with Yargle.
Yeah. Specifically off of Voldaren Thrill Seeker into Yargle.
Yes, 100%. The other combo that I would love to see y'all get, I was able to do it. Botanical Brawler, it has Trample. It's a 0/0, but when it enters the battlefield, it gets 2+1/+1 counters. And then whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on another permanent you control, you get to put one on it if it's the first time that you did so. So Moag puts a counter on every creature, and then you put a counter on the Brawler for every creature that got a counter.
Oh,
So it
man.
became like a 9/9
Oh, boy.
immediately.
Yeah.
So keep a lookout for that. I was actually playing against someone who's an actual judge, and I was like, wait a second. So does it get a counter for each creature? And he was like,
Oh, no.
oh yeah, it does.
It sounds like a lot of your games ended up pretty, like, stalled out. Is that the case?
So I found that basically, I think that this set is assertive, and it's possible to get steamrolled. So you have to have some like board presence early. But I do think that these games are typically it's going to be possible to cast 7 mana cards, and you're going to need something to like really punch through.
My last card that I had on my list here to talk about, which also just kind of is a honorable mention for its cycle, but particularly the white plane cycle card, I think is really good because it also ETBs and exiles a creature. So this is Alabaster Host Intercessor. This is a card, like, if I see these getting passed to me in draft, I will probably be pivoting toward white.
Yep.
But it's 5 and a white, so it is 6. But when it enters the battlefield, exile a creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Plane cycling, so you can play it any time during the game. You can run a bunch of them, and that's okay. And it's a 3/4. But I think this whole cycle of cards, you're not going to be paying to run like one of them in any deck.
Also, Skittering Surveyor in the set.
Yeah.
The one that fetches out a land. Still an it's still good in this set.
Yeah, I think this is a multicolor set for sure.
I think
4
it is.
4 or 5 run big good bombs. And I can't like do them. I don't know the math on this, but with the transform cards, that's one of them. The battles and our Saga Praetors. I think there are more card faces in this set than maybe anything in recent memory besides Kamigawa had all of our sagas, which were dual faced. That, and there are more options to spend your mana on creature and just abilities and things than in most sets, also with all of the transform costs. So there's just lots and lots of options. So it's a very broad decision space for a set.
No, it's a really good point, and it's going to be fun to figure out. On turn 5, do you want to be flipping your 1-drop into a 4/3, or do you want to be playing a 5/5 for 5? I don't quite know the answer to that. And in most cases, traditionally you wanted to like build with the curve and use up all your mana, but especially in limited, double spelling has always been very strong and one of the main ways that you can kind of break ahead of your opponent. So is it a bad idea to invest a bunch of mana in transforming some of these creatures? I imagine some of them are secret traps. And Sealed does give an impression that like you can maybe get away with some stuff that you can't, because I did great in Sealed, I'm not going to lie. But my first 3, I've done like 3 drafts on Arena since it dropped a couple days ago, and they've been rough. Yeah. It was like 1 and 3, like 2 and 3, 3 and 3, just nowhere near as good. And so as we're getting ready for draft, like there's a bunch of questions like, how fast is this set going to be? How much can you get away with? I'm curious to hear what people experience over the first few days. The last card I was going to mention is the All-Star Companion. I love him, Lutri, the Spell Chaser. He is extremely good because the only restriction to have him as a companion is that you can't have multiples of a card. Which is pretty easy to achieve compared to the other companions. And then you just have this free card that you can add to your hand for 3 mana. And he's got the special ability of copying an instant or sorcery. In my experience, I haven't actually done that, although I am very keen on the idea of just copying some sort of removal spell somewhere mid-game. His ability to just be an extra creature when you and your opponent have run out of cards is very, very powerful. And the fact that he has flash means that he can like hop into your hand and then defend a battle.
A free 8th card in your hand, like, that's great. We're never going to be mad about.
Yeah, to the point that he's banned in Commander because of it.
Yeah.
So, just keep your eye out. Like, if you can play Lutri, it's probably worth dropping that second copy of a good removal spell just to have Lutri. That's
because then you kind of have him as your second copy of that spell anyway.
Totally. I guess just a couple of things I would mention from the games that I've played. I think Counter Magic is good. Like, this is a very bomby set.
Yeah.
So, in general, holding up something.
Did you play blue at all? Or
I played blue once, yeah.
Did you play anybody playing blue? Because I had a pretty small sample size. I think that blue is usually like not picked early on in a set, usually, because it's always more aggressive.
It's too intimidating.
Well, yeah, it's like the control. So, and a lot of it's just like, I want to turn my creature sideways is safe.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anybody playing blue either.
I played blue in one of my 3 decks, and it was the night theme, blue-white.
Yeah.
but I opened the Teferi that's on the back of a battle. So it's a battle that makes X knights equal to what you pay. Cast that a couple times, making 6 or 8 knights. And that kind of on its own will sort of win you the game.
Yeah.
But once you flip it, the Teferi gives your knights +1/+0 and ward 1.
Great.
Which is
something
really,
they didn't
really
need,
strong. It's very weird for Teferi.
Yeah.
But that card was better than I thought. And yeah, just like in Kamigawa, making a bunch of 2/2s is very strong. I've been going for my battles. I've been flipping my battles, and I've been enjoying them. Mm-hmm. Some of them are obviously going to be traps. Mm-hmm. And you also got to know when to call it quits.
Yeah, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Think that... I mean, that for
Can that
sure.
be the outro?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to know, like... Start to, like, know when your opponent is probably going to get the battle anyway, and you shouldn't chump, you know? Because, like... at some point that's going to become obvious, and I bet that you can probably tell a turn or two before it happens when the battle is lost, and save your resources to try and just kill them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The ebb and flow of it is going to be interesting to figure out. So yeah, just a couple of things that happened around the world of Magic that I thought would be kind of fun to mention.
This just in.
Across the board, the reception to battles has been pretty solid.
Yeah.
A lot of players seem to like them. A lot of streamers and Magic personalities seem to be generally in on them and are having fun figuring them out. So how does that like work on Wizards' side, you know, when they create a new thing? Basically, they've said that when they create a new like card type or introduce something, they like to kind of build a backdoor, an escape hatch. So like no guarantees.
Yeah.
But what they've said is that battles are deciduous, which is a very dumb
type of
word,
tree.
But it's a type of tree.
Whenever we do something brand new, we want to see what the audience's response are. So it is not as if we're just going to start doing lots of them. We did them in Mom. We want to see the audience respond. So we definitely want to see how people are interacting with them and their thoughts. Mm-hmm. So it is a new tool. It's deciduous in that any set will be allowed to use it. Not evergreen, and probably it'll take a little bit of time before we see more of them, just because we really want to see the first initial, the audience response to them before, and we work ahead.
Yeah.
So I guess like let yourself be heard as you have your opinions about battles. Let Wizards know.
Yeah, I think what we all want to see is what a non-siege battle looks like.
Yeah, I'm dying to find out. I have to imagine they've already done Flash on a battle, so I imagine there would be like ambushes or something, and that would be like an instant speed battle, but they've done
I don't
that.
know.
So who knows what it'll be, but it could be cool stuff like having creatures fight.
Only the
each
scientists
other,
in the labs at Wizards of the Coast know.
At Magic's game testing facility, crack geneticists are hard at work engineering new creatures to help you annihilate your opponent.
Cool. Sometimes you need to know when to hold them, and sometimes you need to know when to fold them.
Fold your battles.
Make sure you fold your cards before you play with them in the field.
And that does it for this episode of All Cards Considered. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you, like me, found the sounds of Prerelease oddly soothing, check out this week's mini episode. We have a not so mini episode. It's actually 12 hours of pre-release background sound to lull you into the best dreams of 5-color Yorion decks. And while we're on the subject of sound, I want to talk about something a little bit controversial. I think Meld is cool. Now, before I had a podcast, a couple of sets ago during the Brothers War, we got to play with the Meld mechanic. And when it was first debuted, one of our luminaries of the field of Magic commentary, Louis Scott Vargas, co-host of Limited Resources, expressed less than enthusiastic response to the concept of melding.
Honestly, I don't think that the meld is ever going to happen and isn't relevant. I don't even want to read Titania Guy Incarnate. Like, if you get these two rare, a mythic plus a rare plus 4 lands in your graveyard, it melds into this just giant monster that does a bunch of stuff. But
okay.
It will not happen for either of us in the entire course of this format, and I would bet it would happen to very few of our listeners. So
okay.
Mostly this is 3 mana for a 3/4 reach that if you mill a land, you gain 2 life. That's fine.
What the heck does Urza Planeswalker do? Urza oh my god.
So,
it just has
again, I don't think it really matters because you're not really combining your mythic plus your rare plus 7 mana like in a realistic sense. If you do, it's great, sure. What this is a 3 mana 2/4 that makes. I think that
I love how hand wavy you are with the Meld.
I don't think Meld's a very cool or fun mechanic. I don't like it, and it doesn't really like. We played with this mechanic in Eldritch Moon, and
did we though?
What I was about to say is I never had anyone Meld, and I played that format a lot.
I did too. Yeah, it would be more accurate to say that mechanic was in Eldritch Moon.
Right.
So we never actually
that
played
mechanic
it.
existed.
It's an opinion that I've heard repeated at game stores and from other players. In fact, when I first saw it, I totally agreed. It felt silly to have this mechanic that, was almost never going to happen. But then I saw it in person. So allow me to present a defense of the much maligned Meld mechanic through the sound of it happening and give you a little taste for those of you that weren't lucky enough to see it go down.
Smokes, ladies and gentlemen, it's fucking happening.
He's about to meld.
He's about to fucking meld.
In real life.
In real life.
I can't wait to see the mega card.
I want to see this mega card so bad.
What's happening?
He's about to meld, dude.
Melding in limited is. I hit
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Got a mega card.
Yeah, dude. Have you never seen this before?
No. They do it.
Check it out. We've got ourselves a big, badass Urza Planeswalker. So big. Yeah, it's so cool.
I can do it twice. Yeah.
Dude. Legends are born.
Yeah, I know.
Well done. Dude, we need to do a painting of you on the wall. Yeah. The man who melded.
I really think this is going to happen. I think this is really going to happen. Holy shit. Here we go. Come on, come on, come on. Yes, baby. Yes, baby.
Okay, that's all. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.
The battle to meld Urza. Yes! It has come.
Victory is assured. This doesn't concern you.